guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel and welcome back to the 12 Days of Vlogmas, where I post a video every day for the 12 days leading up to Christmas. And today's video is going to be a fun one. I first did this type of video last year and I really enjoyed making it last year, and so I thought I would do it again. So I'm going to be sharing my favorite books, movies, TV shows, podcasts, etc. from 2024, and I'm excited to get into it. So I'm first going to be talking about my favorite shows from this year, and some of these on here are new shows that I found this year and a few of them are rewatches. So the first show that I'm going to mention is Only Murders in the Building Season 4. Season 4 came out this past summer and it was really good. It was really funny. I highly recommend watching Only Murders in the Building. It is on Hulu and it's hilarious. It's murder mystery, it's a comedy, it has Martin Short in it, Steve Martin, Selena Gomez, and they all play so well off one another. And like I said, it is absolutely hilarious. The guest stars they have are honestly crazy and they are also hilarious, and I love that show so much. And there is a 5th season that I believe is going to come out next year, so it is a good show. It is on Hulu. I highly recommend it if you haven't watched it. It is so good. The next show I'm going to be talking about is a bit of a guilty pleasure, so please don't judge me, but my guilty pleasure TV show every year is Big Brother. If you don't know what Big Brother is, it is a reality TV competition where a group of people are locked in a house for an entire summer with no contact to the outside world, and it is so good. But the past couple of seasons have been like hit or miss, but for some reason this year's season was really good, and I think it was because of who they casted. So entertaining, so insane. Like, you really did not know what was going to happen this season, so even though it's already aired, there's already a winner. I highly recommend, if you haven't watched it, to watch Big Brother season 26 because it's the best the show has been in a while. Definitely recommend that. These next two shows are both on Apple TV, and the first one is called Trying. It is a lighthearted British comedy about this couple who are planning to adopt children, and it is just really sweet. It's funny, it's relatable if you've been through the process of adoption yourself or with a family member, and so I really like it. There's a few seasons. I think I've watched like the first 3, and I think there's now a 4th season that I have yet to finish watching, but really good, really sweet. I really enjoyed it and I definitely recommend it. And then I also recommend the show For All Mankind. For All Mankind is a TV show that is basically an alternative history timeline. The whole premise is what if Russia beat America to be the first people on the moon? And because of that, the show is like an entire alternate timeline. It is so good. There are so many different aspects. There's space drama, political suspense and drama. If you've ever watched The Americans, there's a little bit of that in there, like that sort of vibe. And it's the kind of show where once you're drawn in, you can't really stop watching. So I want to say there are 4 seasons currently. Yeah, I think there's 4 seasons currently, and there's going to be a 5th next year. Or maybe it's season 6. I can't remember. But really good. Highly recommend it. I don't want to say too much else to spoil it. So yeah, so I really enjoyed that show. And another show that was a favorite this year is none other than Doctor Who. If you've been watching me for a while, you probably know I've mentioned here and there that I love Doctor Who, and so the new season came out earlier this year and it was really good. I do have my criticisms with it, but it is so good to be back with Doctor Who with new seasons coming out. Another new season is coming out next year, and then we get a Christmas special this year, and so very excited about it all. And if you want to hear more about my thoughts, if you're a Doctor Who fan, check out A Timey-Wimey Pod on Spotify or whatever podcast listening platform you're on, because you may hear a familiar voice. But yeah, so those are my favorite shows. Oh yeah, there's one more I wanted to mention, and that is Ghosts. Now I want to be clear because there's 2 different shows called Ghosts and they're both on Paramount Plus, but there is Ghost US and then there is Ghost BBC, and I am recommending the Ghost BBC. It is a BBC production from the UK, and it is so good. It is a comedy, it's also heartwarming, and you get really connected to the characters. It's a very unique premise, but it is so good. I really enjoyed it. I definitely recommend it. Again, it's on Paramount Plus. It is so good. And then of course, this year I watched Gilmore Girls, because how could I not? Gilmore Girls is a classic. If you haven't watched Gilmore Girls, you need to watch Gilmore Girls. But those are my top shows from this year. I realized at the beginning of this video, I said I would also be talking about my favorite movies from this year, but honestly, there's only one movie this year that I have to mention, and it is called The Best Christmas Pageant Ever. We ended up seeing it in movie theaters, but it was actually a book that I read in school like years and years ago and had to write like an essay on. It was like a whole thing, but they adapted it into a movie, and in my opinion, the movie was really well done, and I think it is a movie that all ages would really enjoy, whether you're an adult or a child. It was really good, really sweet, and I really enjoyed it. So that's my movie for this year. I'm more of a TV show person than a movie person for sure. And moving on to my top podcasts, they're not much different than last year. I don't even know if I mentioned anything about podcasts last year, but my top podcasts are still Crime Junkie, which is all about true crime cases, and I listen to them periodically. I've listened to them for years, but like I'll listen to new episodes periodically. But besides that, I haven't done like a ton of specific podcast listening this year. It's more been like sporadic and whatever pops up in my recommendations. And as for books, I have a couple. So my first book is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. It is a trilogy, so there are 3 books in this series, and I've read the first 2. I have yet to read the 3rd book, but the first book is definitely my favorite. It is really good, and the story wraps up in the first book, but there's strings in that book that will be kind of addressed and pulled in the next book, and then I'm assuming the 3rd book as well. But I highly recommend it. It's really good. And then another book I highly recommend is called Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone by Benjamin Stevenson. I had seen this book advertised all over social media, and I just never got a chance to read it until earlier this year, and I read it for the first time. It is so good. It is really hard for me because I read a lot of like mysteries and thrillers, so I almost always guess the twist or who killed the person before the book is even concluded, and this book had me guessing. It was so good. The premise literally is that everyone in this one guy's family has killed someone, which is such a unique, different premise, and I really enjoyed it. So I highly recommend it. I also want to read his other book that is the next one in this series. Definitely a highlight. Another highlight from this year is the book called The Housemaid by Frida McFadden, and honestly, it is very much, it was like a thriller and suspense book, and it did keep me genuinely guessing, which like I said, is hard to do. It is also very like popcorn thriller, if that makes any sense. Like if this was a movie on Lifetime, like you could convince me it was a movie on Lifetime, but in book form. So yeah, but it was really enjoyable. Definitely better quality than Lifetime, but it was a fun read. I really enjoyed it. So that's that. And the last book that I wanted to talk about is called We Were the Lucky Ones by Georgia Hunter. And this book is a historical fiction about a family during the Holocaust, and it is actually based on the author's family's lived experience during the Holocaust. It was a book that really stuck with me this year, and even though I read this one towards the beginning of the year, it is one that I've thought about quite a bit, and I am always an advocate for people reading more books about World War II and specifically the Holocaust and people's experiences. I think it's really important. It's an area of history that I've tended to read a lot about. But this book was just really well done. It was well written, and I highly recommend you read it. It was adapted into a Hulu TV show earlier this year, and I do feel like the adaptation into the show was actually done pretty well, but I do prefer the book slightly, and like I said, it's a really good book. Definitely recommend it. And I believe that sums up all of my favorites from this year. So I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. Let me know what your favorite shows or movies or books or podcasts or anything, any of your favorites from this year were down in the comments. As always, don't forget to like this video and subscribe down below. And feel free to ask any questions, comment any video requests, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye guys!